So my new book is called TOCK with her tea, and what's interesting about it is that typically you would imagine that 30 is a milestone for anybody. It's when you're in your teens, 30 seems very far away, and this book is really about a bunch of friends. There are 12 friends who went to college together, who grew up together. Much earlier than that, they've been friends. And after college, when they're all going their own ways, they made this pact that they'll all meet again when they're 30. And my central character, the female protagonist, is this girl called Lara. And since Lara is the youngest in the gang, they make this pact that when Lara turns 30, we'll all meet again from wherever in the world we are, because that's when everybody is going to be 30, which is cool. That wouldn't be a problem at all with Lara. What is not so cool is the fact that one drunken, tipsy evening, she also made a pact with another guy in the gang called Nishad, that if neither of them had been hooked up with anybody by the time they were 30, they would end up marrying each other. This was one very random pact that had been made, and it's not a big deal. It's not as if when they're all going to meet again together, Nishad is going to drag her by the hair and say, "Come on, woman, you got to marry me," and all that. It's not that. The fact is that at that time, Lara had been dating this very the kind of guy that all your friends warn you against, a guy called Randeep, and he's a pro motor racer, and Nishad is primary among the friends who's been warning her off Randeep. So the fact that now when they meet again, when all of them meet again at 30, and she knows that the fact that Randeep is not around, and it's going to give Nishad this opportunity to say, "I told you so," and she doesn't want to give him that, because he's been this kind of guy who's somehow she's always had this sparring sort of relationship, and he kind of gets under her skin, he bugs her. So essentially this book is about these two pacts. One, that they're all going to meet again, and suddenly it looks like it's all happening. She's got her best friends, the ones from the gang were still in town, which interestingly enough, people say, sometimes people ask me, is this book chick lit? And I say no, it isn't, primarily because in chick lit, all your friends are girlfriends. Two, the relationships are always, there's this completely impeccable, perfect kind of relationships between girlfriends. Things can happen with guys, but between the girlfriends, nothing changes. They're always there for each other. They're rallying for each other. In this book, it's actually about real relationships. It's about the fact that even with your girlfriends, you can have competitiveness. You can have a little bit of, a constant sort of angst that's been there. There's history that you have with each other. And there's also the fact that some of your best friends are not necessarily girlfriends. So this book is about her closest friends, a girl who's like 1 6-foot thing, who's completely as ungirly as it gets, a very soppy guy who's this very barrel-shaped kind of character who's called Sita. In fact, somewhere in the book, Lara says, if ever I'm going to have a kid of my own, I'm going to name it the opposite of what I want it to be, because most of my friends have names which are completely unlike them. You've got Nani, who's this towering girl. You've got Sita, who's this very, ultra chivalrous, and I'm not taking any nonsense from anybody kind of guy. You've got this girl who's completely avant-garde and very new agey, whose name is Riti. So this book is about all these friends coming together and what happens in the week or 8 days that they spend together. Well, there is romance that happens there, but I'm not going to tell you a thing about who the love interests are, because there is so much that happens in the space of this week. Like with a lot of gangs or groups that have grown up together, there is also a couple that fell in love. There is a girl called Manika and another character called Daniel, and they had gotten involved when they were still in college, and they were the first in the gang to actually get married, but they're also now the first in the gang to have broken up, and they're also coming together in this whole reunion that's happening. So romance features in it in a pretty important way, but I would say that this book is not about romance. If you're looking to read an out-and-out romance, this is not it. If you're looking for something which is fun, which is completely wacky, the characters are real, So the stuff they do is stuff that you can imagine you would do if you actually were to manage to get your friends together. In fact, the reason I wrote this book was because I grew up with a set of friends in Delhi, and we would all keep talking about the fact that, you know, when we said, okay, millennium, you know, year 2000, we're all going to do this reunion and we're going to meet. It didn't happen. Somebody or the other says, you know, Christmas, I can't leave the family, and somebody else had kids who had exams. So this, I mean, from year 2000, you know, it went on and on, this talk of having the reunion. And finally I decided, guys, you can do what you want. I'm creating my own set of friends, new set of friends, and I'm going to give them a reunion. I'm going to see what happens. So it was great fun writing this book, because I actually had no idea what is going to happen, because I knew these characters that I want to create, and I'm going to put them together in one house, you know, and then see what happens. So it was actually really fun, because I ended up plotting how each person, the sleeping arrangements would be, you know, each room, who's going to be in what room, what happens if they were to interchange rooms and suddenly someone has gone off somewhere and something else happens. So there's all kinds of dynamics in place, there's rivalries in place, there's also stuff that has happened in people's lives in the 10 years that have passed, you know. So the kind of protectiveness that you also have towards friends that you can constantly be you know, teasing and getting on their case when you're together, but the way then you actually stand up for each other when it comes to the crunch. That's what the book is about. Well, I've used certain elements from these friends that I grew up with, enough to be able to bug them and say, okay guys, I'm sure you'll recognize a little bit of yourself there, but they know that it's not them, because everything else in terms of what my fictional characters' past lives are, you know, what their backgrounds are, what makes them, and the kind of things they do and so on, or even what transpires in the course of this book, all that is completely invented, and I'm hoping it gives them a few jolts and shocks and says, how could you do that? You know, I mean, you know, if they see even a little germ of something about themselves there, I'm hoping it's enough to say we need to have that real reunion now. This book is primarily set in Delhi, and the characters are coming in from all over the world. So there's a lot of what they have become in the 10 years that they went away, which is also going to, you know, be you know, give a lot of flavor to the book. There's also a very interesting character who's called Farzan, who's a Turkish dude, and Lara works as a model coordinator, and she also does you know, pro bono counseling at a counseling center, and because of the fact that she doesn't want Nishad to have this chance to say I told you so, she needs to prove to him that yeah, she's actually got, you know, really great judgment in men now, and so she's decided that she's going to pull in somebody and, you know, get this guy to act as her love interest for this reunion. So that's where Farzan comes in. The kind of feedback that I started getting, the book is not yet launched, but, you know, there are copies that have already become available, and there are people who are writing in. I'm hearing that people find that, you know, there's you know, there are lots and lots of unexpected stuff. So there's lots of surprises. People also found that they could really connect with the characters. They could feel that, you know, everybody's grown up with friends like that. For instance, there's another character in the book who, you know, who's, you know, you might say that he's a conspiracy theorist, but the fact is that he knows his fundas. He knows exactly what he's talking about, you know, and he's a very chilled out character. You know, he works with an NGO somewhere in the hills. So, you know, we've all had friends like that who add so much dimension to our lives, and these are the kind of friends that you make when you're much younger. When you're working, you tend to become a little more judgmental, and you tend to choose your friends, you know, in terms of, you know, there's certain stuff that you do together and things like that. When you're younger, the friends you make are friends that you make simply because you've all got time and you're all hanging around in the same area. So you pick up very unlikely friends, you know. So I think when you pick up this book, you're going to find that there are characters there that you actually feel that, you know, you've had friends like that in the, you know, in the past. Or that these are characters that you can, you know, you can come away feeling that they'll become your friends, because you know, you get such a real sense of what they're about and what's going on, but it's all in the garb of a lot of crazy stuff they get up to. They want to pack in as much as they can into the week. Well, the clock is ticking down. The friends are coming together 8 days prior to Lara's birthday. So the whole thing is that the clock is ticking down towards Lara's birthday, which is when officially all of them will have turned 30. Now, another interesting thing we did with this cover, for instance, if you see, as you're seeing the clock turns 30, the clock turns 30, and you see these little elements here. For instance, there's the hookah here, there's the karaoke mic here, you've got the potty. Now, each of these elements that you see here is actually also linked with characters in the book, So when you read it and you go back, you also say, oh yeah, okay, now I see why. There's one character who's completely OCD, and she's very nervous all the time, and she has to get out. There's this constant thing of okay, I need to go to the loo, or she's always got some tummy issues that are going on. So it often puts a spanner in the works. Just when you want to go somewhere, this particular character, Thinria, wants to be doing something else. So and then it's all building towards that particular day when it's Lara's 30th birthday, and that's when everything, that whole pot that's been boiling and lots of stuff has been building up, and situations have been building. It all comes together and sort of combusts at the end.